The Underground Railroad was a time of testimony, triumph, and grief for thousands of people. During this time, lives were lost, saved, and given. From the years of 1780 to 1865, people were traveling far and wide, just so they could live a life of freedom. Although the routes used were not underground nor a railroad, they were a very secret way for people to escape slavery. Because of some remarkable individuals like Harriet Tubman and William Still, who were involved in the Underground Railroad, they helped save and lead over 1,000 escaping slaves to freedom.
If you hear the dogs, keep going. If you see the torches in the woods, keep going. If they're shouting after you, keep going. Don't ever stop. Keep going. If you want a taste of freedom, keep going. These were the wise words of Harriet Tubman, a conductor for the Underground Railroad. The Underground Railroad was used for one sole reason: to help thousands of people taken for granted and used escape slavery and live a life of freedom. The railroad was sadly used for approximately 85 years. This web of secret routes and safe houses ran throughout the United States, parts of Mexico near the border, as well as parts of Canada. The conductors would often dress as slaves to enter the Underground Railroad and would call the escaping slaves cargo or passengers. The main entrance points to Canada were Ontario and New Brunswick. Because of the equal rights and freedom of Canada, it was given the title of Promised Land or Heaven. In the United States, there was the River Jordan, which marked the boundaries between the free states and slave states.
Before the American Civil War, slaves would follow the North Star during the Battle to Freedom when traveling to Canada. When traveling, they did not just walk or run. They hid, they sang, they watched. They did not sing for fun or to occupy themselves. They sang as a method of communication and warning. Follow the drinking board, Go Down Moses, Let Us Break Bread Together, and Wade in the Water are all songs used to communicate during travels. Singing was not the only way of communication or safety. There were also quilts, which played a very large part in hiding in directions. Safe houses would put quilts with certain patterns on them on fences or doors to show that it was safe to enter. Symbols such as monkey wrench, wagon wheel, bear's paw, and crossroads are a few of the symbols used. Although there were safe houses, passengers did not always stay there. Slaves and conductors would often stay in barns, under church floors, or in caves and hollowed-out riverbanks. If the slaves or conductors were found while escaping or traveling, there were very big consequences, such as being beaten, getting starved, and being branded. Not only that, but slaves and conductors would also receive up to a $1,000 fine and 6 months in prison. After they got out of jail, they would be sold to different owners and receive an iron chain-link contraption that sits around their neck with vertical bars above their head with bells hanging from it to ensure that they would not escape again.
Also known as slave catchers or patrol, the police would guard the waters to be certain that slaves would not escape by boat. Although this was a very strong action, some slaves still managed to escape by boat with the help of Jonathan Walker, who packaged escaping slaves in boxes and shipped them away by boat. Jonathan Walker was later found and was branded SS on his left hand, meaning slave stealer, by the government. This man was also imprisoned and heavily fined for his brave but illegal actions. To notify the public and slave hunters of an escaped slave, posters were made with a reward amount varying from around $100 to $3,000 for anyone who found and returned an escaped slave. For certain people or people who aided the Underground Railroad, there was a much larger reward amount. For example, the reward for finding and returning Harriet Tubman was $40,000.
Harriet Tubman and William Still are the names of two brave and extravagant people who aided the travels of many slaves using the Underground Railroad. Together, these two conductors helped lead over 1,000 slaves to freedom in Canada or Mexico. Harriet and William were sadly both born into slavery. Although William was born in a free state, his mother was an escaped slave. Because of this action, William was legally a slave in New Jersey. Harriet Tubman, also known as Moses, was born in slavery in Maryland, but later escaped slavery at an older age. Although she escaped slavery, she did not escape slaveholding states. She made many trips back and forth to slaveholding states to help rescue and guide slaves to Canada and northern free states. During the Civil War, Harriet Tubman was a spy, scout, and nurse.
After an astounding 10 years and 19 trips of freeing slaves, Harriet sadly died from pneumonia on March 10, 1913, at the age of 91. William Stills was known as the father of the Underground Railroad for his astonishing acts of bravery and dedication while saving and leading over 800 slaves. At the age of 81, on July 14, 1902, William unfortunately suffered from heart dysfunction, which caused his death. William Stills once said, "The heroism and desperate struggles that many of our people had to endure under the terrible oppression that they were under should be kept green in the memory of this and coming generations. As stated in these wise words of a hero, the struggles of many should not be forgotten and will not be forgotten."
Every great dream begins with a dreamer. Always remember, you have within you the strength, the patience, and the passion to reach for the stars to change the world. Like Harriet Tubman, William Still, Jonathan Walker, and many more who truly fulfilled the meaning and words of this phrase, while not only helping the people escape the unfair life of slavery, but by believing in what they thought was right, no matter the situation or consequences. The time the Underground Railroad was used was traumatizing and heartbreaking. It has changed equal rights, society as a whole, and the lives and future as well as the past of family members, friends, and the powerful and brave who helped or were involved in the Underground Railroad. As a result of the rebellious actions of many, the world has changed in a better way and forever will continue to change for the better. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and make a change. Michael Jackson.